Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our forum. I just want to introduce our speaker for today. What on earth might you need to know? Elise Viggiano has been here at St. Paul's for 5 years, so many of you know her very well. But that's the thing, when a clergy person has been serving in the same place for 5 years, we practice sabbatical. We take time away from the parish. That gives us a chance to rest and renew, the parish a chance to be in a different space without that particular leader there. It's a time of renewal intended to be for everybody. And people do their sabbatical in all kinds of ways. They take trips or they don't, they take courses or they don't. There's no right or wrong way to rest. But Elise chose as part of her sabbatical to go to Italy to explore the place of her family origin. And she did that not alone. She did that with some of her family.
That's
of
right.
origin.
Yes, yeah.
So there's lots for us to hear, and we are delighted to hear
Thank you,
it.
thank you,
Elise.
thank you. Let's start with prayer, and then we'll get on with it. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, so draw our hearts to Thee, so guide our minds, so fill our imaginations, so control our wills, that we may be wholly Thine, utterly dedicated unto Thee, and then use us, we pray Thee, as Thou wilt, and always to Thy glory, and the welfare of Thy people, through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, Jenny, for giving us an overview of sabbatical and what that looks like and what that means to people. This, exactly what Jenny said, this sabbatical was a moment of rest, and it was also one for me to gain perspective, especially after the pandemic where we were just so locked and in the gear that we were in, that looking at something, it was just staring at something. I wasn't actually able to see the thing that was in front of me. And I think this happens in all of our lives in some form or way. And it's also to break us of routine. I am a person of routine. And so this sabbatical was difficult because it was a growing edge to break the routines that I had created for myself. But of course, as a routine person, I created a new routine. And that was basically, I went to Mass, and because I was in Italy, and actually also here in Alexandria, I went to Mass at a Catholic church. I would run every day, and then I would do something with my time in the afternoon that wasn't like study related or church related, just something hopefully really fun. In most cases, that was going to a coffee shop. So I realized when I was on this pilgrimage to Viggiano, Italy, that yes, going to Italy in and of itself was a pilgrimage. But after reflecting on it, I really had I had many, many pilgrimages, but there are 3 pilgrimages that I'm willing to share with you today. One was the traditional one that I expected to have. One was the unexpected pilgrimage that I didn't plan to have. And one was the best meal of my life. So here we go. So the traditional pilgrimage, it started in Modena, Italy. Oh, come on, technology. There we go. The traditional pilgrimage, it started in Viggiano, Italy, which is in the south of Italy, which is in the region of Potenza. We do know that my father's side came from the area of Potenza. I have to say, I saw a lot of Viggianos and tombstones of Viggianos. I have no idea if they were related to me, but it was still a wonderful thing to be sort of in this place where you're like, okay, most likely my family came from here. It was wonderful. So the whole point of going to Viggiano, Italy, was to see this Black Madonna. And I wrote about that in an article, so I'm not going to totally rehash it, but a long time ago I found out that there was a Black Madonna, a statue of the Virgin Mary that has many, many powers, but is primarily a pilgrimage site for individuals to walk to, and it happened to be in Viggiano. So it sort of became this thing in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, and so when I was granted a sabbatical, what better time to do it? So I get myself to Viggiano, Italy. I had to drive there, and it is a lot hillier than I thought it was going to be, but that was perfectly fine. What you're seeing right now, so the very first slide that you saw, that was a picture of Viggiano, Italy, so the very opening slide. Very mountainous, very hilly. The picture on top is the mountain that I climbed to get to this Black Madonna. And these are some friends that I made along the way. These sheep and goats, and there were even horses. It was incredible. I mean, walking up this mountain, it was the steepest thing I've ever climbed. And there were farms on the side of this hill, and there were horses on the side of this hill. I mean, people were living in these places that I didn't know that you could make happen. And so this is some of the flora and fauna. And you see the Viggiano, I guess, marker for the Black Madonna. At that point, I had walked 6 miles completely uphill, and I still had like 1.5 miles to go, and steeper yet. So it wasn't a very clear day. It was very foggy. So the very first thing, when I finally got to the platform, when I got to the mount, that is what I saw. I saw this very foggy chapel and bell tower, and I was the only one there. And so it was sort of spooky and eerie, and it makes you rethink why you just walked all this way for this, to see some fog. But it gets better. It does clear up. And I'm able to just basically visit with the area and visit the chapel. Now, because this was technically the off-season for the pilgrimages for the Black Madonna, hey, of course, it wouldn't be a presentation without technology going awry on me. Here we go. I didn't watch that during my sabbatical, just so you know. Here we go. Wonderful. See, it happens to everybody, not just Oren. Finally, when I got to the top, because this was the off-season for visiting the Black Madonna, I was literally solo on this mount, and there was one man who was there to, I guess, guard the space. And so I walk up to the chapel, and it's locked. Again, makes you question why you did all of this. And but he immediately started to speak to me in Italian. I'm in Italy, and he said, "Okay, don't worry, come along to the side of the chapel." And so I went in through the side of the chapel, and yes, the Black Madonna was there, but she was getting her makeup done. They were doing some restoration work, so I got to visit with her a little bit. Not what I expected, but that was perfectly fine and good. And then after I was done sitting there and saying a few prayers, this was the sight that was before me, the incredible one. If I didn't say how steep it was to climb this mountain, it was very, very steep, and I really got to see what the rest of the mountain looked like in climbing it all. And it really, it gave real definition to mountaintop experience that I didn't know I would have, but it was truly, truly stunning. Walking back down the mountain, it was in total a 14-mile pilgrimage, and this is where it actually began. So this is the basilica for the Black Madonna, where she lives when it's not her summering home. So during the year, fall through the spring, in this church is where the Black Madonna resides. This is not her. I wasn't allowed to take pictures of her, but this is a replica of her. And I've put 2 pictures on here of the space within the church. So what you're seeing is the high altar, and that is where she's placed when they're having Mass. And then you can see sort of a side picture. The bottom picture is their altar, but also another location of where she resides when they are not having Mass. So she has a lot of space in this church, and it was wonderful to experience that. The other interesting thing that I wasn't expecting in going to Italy and going to Mass, I knew that it was going to be a different experience because everything was going to be in Italian. My last name may be Viggiano, but I speak 0 Italian. It actually got me in a lot of trouble. People would see my last name and automatically assume, oh, of course this person speaks Italian. And I would, bashfully be like, I'm sorry, here's Google Translate. I don't know what else to do. And so I knew I was going to have some of those moments. But when I got to the Basilica, they were having an evening Mass. And I just sat down, and after, so many hours of travel, it was like, wow, you actually made it here. Like, can you believe you actually got yourself here? And as I was in Mass and trying to pray, I was like, well, this is all in Italian. I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't even know what the scriptures are. The priest started into the Eucharist, and I knew, it just dawned on me watching him and watching his manual acts that I knew exactly where he was in the service. And it was this profound moment of, oh my God, the nature, what we share with the Catholic Church and other churches that perform the Eucharist, there's this universality that even though I didn't understand the words that were being said, I understood the manual acts, and it was this great just reception of, oh my God, like you can be in worship anywhere and still be worshipful, even if you don't understand what's going on. So it gave a whole new light to what it was to be in worship with a different language and yet still understand all that was going on. So I got to do all of that by myself initially, and then my parents joined me in Viggiano, which was also quite emotional. My grandfather, who has been dead for quite some time, did get to go to Italy, did get to go to Potenza, but never got to Viggiano. And he didn't really have the desire, his generation didn't have the desire to really go back and want to experience Italy because he was an American, he was making his life here in America, that's who he was. And so anyway, I knew my grandfather had gotten to visit Viggiano. This was my father's second time back in Italy, but his first time being in Viggiano. And so as I was standing there, I was thinking to myself, this being here with my father, knowing that my grandfather was here, at least in the area, but absolutely, most certainly with me right now, it was this like cloud of witnesses moment where you could feel just that this was a place where my family is gathered and where I'm being protected and held. And so this is a very sweet picture of my father and I, and I'm holding a picture of my grandfather. My mother was there, she took the picture. And we are actually right in front of, yes, Cafe Viggiano. I absolutely adored that everything just had my name on it. And it was very, very sweet. The owners, I cannot encourage you enough to travel with my mother. She is one who will ask questions and get to know the locals. And she made friends with these folks. And actually, because she is so good at bringing people together, the owner of that cafe actually gave me an espresso cup because he learned about why I was doing what I was doing and why I was here in Italy and that I'm a priest and all the good stuff. So he wanted me to remember Viggiano, which I said, there's no way I'll ever forget. And but he gave me a little espresso cup. And again, this is a sweet picture of my parents and of the Vigiano shield. So there were different shields up on this platform that was right across from the church, and Vigiano had its own little shield. So that's absolutely lovely. So from Vigiano, my parents and I traveled then north. My mother was given the suggestion that we should drive the Amalfi Coast. You should never drive the Amalfi Coast. This is a picture of me after driving the Amalfi Coast, and there was still more to come. It was beautiful. I can't say enough how beautiful the Amalfi Coast was. I needed a strong drink after I was done driving. So we went up to the Amalfi Coast, and then we stayed in Naples to go visit Pompeii. So the pictures that you see of the pizza and of the pizza oven and of a garden, that is of Naples. It was a short stop. I'm not talking a lot about it because it was beautiful and wonderful and fabulous food, but not the pilgrimages that I want to talk about today. So from Naples, we then went to Florence. There's the pictures of the church is their Duomo, their cathedral, which was absolutely stunning. We didn't get to go inside, but it was so beautiful on the outside. You could just take that all in just by looking at it. And I got to see, one of my favorite painters is Caravaggio, and so got to see some of his paintings in one of the museums, and of course saw the David, which, don't make the mistake that I did. The David is after... I'm admitting this. The David is after the biblical story of David and Goliath. I didn't realize that. And so I'm like, oh, why do we have to go see the David? I've seen pictures of the David. I was complaining that why are we going to see the David? And then the woman who was giving us a tour, she's like, after David and Goliath. And I was like, oh my God. Elise, okay. So I now have a real appreciation for the David. Didn't realize that, but... So just know that's actually, an interpretation of biblical scripture. So go see the David. It was wonderful. More in the in-between, my parents and I went to Rome and Venice. My parents were in Rome, and then I went on to Venice. But stories about Rome, not a pilgrimage, even though my mother wants me to call it a pilgrimage. In Rome, we are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so we love the Pittsburgh Steelers. There is a Pittsburgh bar. So, we are in Rome, Italy, and I am not happy that we are going to a Steeler bar out of all the other options we have in front of us in Rome. And yet, gosh, traveling with my mother is an absolutely incredible experience because she is going to start a conversation with somebody, get to be in the locals, she wants to know everything that they're doing, why they do it. And so here we are at the Steeler bar, and we're having a conversation with a couple that was just married, so they were doing their honeymoon here. And they just start to we really just start to get on. We're having great conversation. And they notice that my mother is drinking, she's drinking beer. And in her beer, there are green olives. This is what she calls a beertini. This is what... She's an evangelist for the beertini. She's taken it everywhere she's gone. And so Italy was no different. But this couple noticed it, and the husband said, oh my God, to his wife, her name was Izzy. He said, Izzy, I think you would love this beertini. I mean, you love olives. And we were just sort of making fun of that. The night continues on. More people join in to talk about the Steelers, and we're from Pittsburgh, and I'm thoroughly embarrassed. And suddenly Izzy, the wife, the newly married individual, comes out, and she's carrying a beer with olives in it. And so it goes to show it is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to travel with family who wants to support and encourage and really wants to enjoy really the culture that is around us. So this is a picture of my mother and her famous beertini. And then, of course, of the Vatican. We got to go into St. Peter's Cathedral, and, of course, had a cannoli. And then I left my parents. My parents traveled back from Rome to Pittsburgh, and I traveled on to Venice. Venice was absolutely stunning, absolutely enchanting. You just don't appreciate what it is to not have cars and bikes and scooters until you really get to this place. There's nothing but waterways in order to travel. So it was really just a stunning experience and something that I had not experienced before. So from Venice, I went to Turin, Italy, which is in the north. And this is, although it's sort of funny, it's something that you would expect that I would have done, but I had no idea this was going to happen. So Turin, Italy, I get to my my apartment, my Airbnb, and I look up, of course, like, where is the best coffee shops? And before I say that, there was espresso everywhere. I started to keep count and totally lost after the first day, because anywhere I could go in, you could belly up and just say, like, an espresso, please, and there it was for like €1. Loved that. Could not get enough of that. I'm at the gas station, espresso. I'm at some architecture site. There's an espresso. So I'm just, espresso, espresso, espresso. At this point, I was like, I would really love, because I'm a snob, I love a pour-over coffee. Not that the coffee in Italy was bad. It was wonderful, but I would like something a little more nuanced, something more like a fine wine. That's what I was looking for. And so there was this Orso coffee shop right around the corner from my Airbnb, and I had no idea that it was there. Very similar to what you would experience here in the States in terms of style of coffee shop. And so I go and I sit there right in that little red chair, and again, right after sort of you're traveling all day, and I finally have this like specialty cup of coffee. I'm enjoying it, and strange, a young woman comes by, and I am minding my own business. I swear I'm minding my own business. Oh my gosh, the technology! So glad this is happening to me. I am minding my own business, and this young woman walks past me, but then comes back to the table, and she says, "Oh my God, can I take a picture of you?" And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, like, is there any particular reason? And she said, "You just look like you're having the time of your life." And I was like, I am having the time of my life. I am drinking in Italy this wonderful cup of coffee, and so that was like wild, and only more wild things to come. So this was my coffee shop in Turin. I once again created myself a little routine: get up, go to mass, go to this coffee shop, and I would sit and journal and write and reflect on all that has happened up until this point. And so I'm once again sitting at that little chair, and an older gentleman sits down next to me, and he starts talking to me in Italian, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I don't understand Italian, I'm an American." And he's like, "Oh, great," and just starts talking to me in English. And I was like, okay, that's really sweet. So we start having a conversation, and he notices that I'm writing, and he says, "Oh my God, you're writing." And I said, "Yeah, no big deal." And he goes, "That's amazing. You're just like one of those, people who wrote the big book." And so I think he's trying to say, you're writing a book. And I was like, oh, no, it's a journal. I'm just writing like reflections and stuff. And he goes, no, you're like a monk that's written the Bible. Like, and I'm like, I am not wearing clericals. I am wearing a cat shirt. You cannot tell that I am a priest. You would just pass me by. And yet, there it is. And we had wonderful conversations throughout my time. I spent 5 days in Turin, and every morning we would just have a new conversation. And it was really absolutely stunning to be able to do that. Last weird thing that happened at this coffee shop, again, sitting in that spot, there was a group of young people that were having sort of a lively discussion, and they get up and they go across the street, and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'm not having a conversation with them. I'm over here minding my own business. And then suddenly, a young gentleman runs over to the table and starts to talk to me in Italian. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't speak Italian. And, I got used to that at this point. And he says, oh, no, you don't have to speak Italian. And I was like, okay, well, yes, what would you like to talk about? And he said, would you like to be in this movie that we're filming across the street? And I was like, well, why not? And so, I said, I really can't speak Italian. He goes, you don't have to. You just have to sit there and look like you're working. And I was like, great. I can sit there and look like I'm working. So if you're ever in Italy sometime, apparently I'm a big movie star, and I haven't gotten any royalties yet, but soon. These are more pictures of Turin, just walking around the city itself. It felt really a lot like Richmond, Virginia. I had been experiencing, in every city there were lots of cats, but in Turin there were dogs everywhere, which I don't know why, but Richmond to me feels like a dog city. So these are just other pictures. What Turin is mostly known for religiously is the Shroud of Turin. And that was an incredible experience as well. This was what they claim, the shroud that Jesus was wrapped in when he was put into the tomb. And they have apparently science and other things that have revealed that they believe that this is the shroud that he was wrapped in, and they can prove it. So that was the church that it was in, and behind those glass doors, that's where the shroud is. And this little chapel in the corner, I absolutely love it. They called it, a chapel of grace. And so my whole experience up until this point was just exactly that, grace upon grace upon grace. So loved Turin. Spent a lot of money on coffee there, but it was absolutely stunning and wonderful. Okay, so that was the unexpected pilgrimage. This was the pilgrimage of a lifetime, a meal of a lifetime. So a long time ago, not that long ago, when I was in undergrad, I had learned of a wonderful chef, Massimo Bottura, and I was inspired by him because he was incredibly creative with how he was developing dishes that were traditionally Italian but looked nothing like what your grandmother was putting in front of you at her table. And he started to gain a lot of momentum, and people finally realized that he was doing incredible things with food and was incredibly creative. And this is not his Michelin star restaurant that I visited. It's one of the many restaurants that he has since developed from developing his Michelin star restaurant, Osteria Francescata. Again, he's absolutely an inspiration to me and to a lot of the food world, because not only does he have these restaurants, but he has a social impact, a social justice variation to all of his businesses, where he will take any food waste and take it to what's called sort of this refectory, and they repurpose it and they feed all individuals who are not able to afford a real lavish meal, and yet you're eating Michelin star quality food in these places. So he has gone throughout the world placing these interesting refectories to help individuals on the margins. And so he's an inspiring person in my life. And so for a long time, I had said, I am going to go to one of his restaurants. But I was like, when am I going to do that? Like, when am I going to go to Italy? And then here we are. This was the time. I had reservations for several months to get into this is the little version of his osteria. And so I will take you through the meal because okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So the meal, there were lots of different options. You could order a la carte, but I was like, no, absolutely. I want to indulge in the prefixed meal, what you've decided is the best. And again, the dishes coming from this particular restaurant were a reflection of Modena, Italy, which is south of Milan. And it's a big producer of Parmesan, balsamic vinegar, and one other thing, other than Massimo Bottura. But it is really well known for its food production. So this menu was intended to highlight that. And I was very excited to get there. I ordered myself the traditional Italian beverage, a Negroni, which I loved. And my family, laughs at this first picture, but your welcome appetizers were a piece of asparagus and a turnip. I loved it. I thought this was the best. Like eating one single asparagus, the best asparagus you can get. I loved it. It was followed up by a little miniature hamburger. And so that is what that little box is. It's a little hamburger. And it's Massimo Bottura's, what he thinks are the perfect elements to a hamburger. And yeah, it was the size of a slider, but it was the best slider I've ever had. So that was really incredible. It was followed up with this dish of tortellini, which is really, really interesting because it's inspired by his other restaurant, the Michelin star one, where he made this huge splash by only serving 6 tortellini to customers. And obviously, Italians were very upset by this because you don't just serve 6 tortellini. That's not what we do. That's not how the culture is. But he made the best 6 tortellini that you could possibly have in this incredible broth. This is an homage to that. It was not that. It was delicious and the best tortellini I had all trip. Then we go down to the meat and cheese. So it's pancetta and then a mustard little accoutrement that came with it. Then this is a pasta dish I saved. I'm going to mispronounce the type of noodle, but it is this. It's in a tomato broth that has a rosemary dusting on top of it, and then beneath that was a form of a ragu, and the best pasta I've ever had. I never thought about creating rosemary into dust, and it was phenomenal. I couldn't say you should always create rosemary dust. I never even thought of it, and so it was absolutely stunning. And then the other dish on the bottom is actually a whole chicken, if you can believe it or not. But it's made into sort of a pate form. But every part of this dish is from every single part of the chicken. Stunning. I mean, you just don't realize how much we can utilize food, manipulate it into something new and something different, and have it be incredibly delightful to eat. they told me that at some point there's like liver or something in there, and you would have fooled me. So, and finally, the final dish is like a cake with like a chocolate icing on top with an icing in the middle, and it's a smaller version of a traditional Italian dessert. And so I ate this whole meal. I thought utterly by myself, which is a fun thing to do, going to eat at a restaurant by yourself. But while I was eating in this restaurant, an American family sat across the restaurant from me, and I was like, oh, cool, Americans, I can hear what they're saying, like that's sort of nice that I can understand what's going on over there. And then I really was paying more attention to my food. And as I was getting ready to, sign the check, pay the bill, get up, the family, the wife of the family, says, again, why does this? It's so fascinating that this happened. She says, wait, before you go. And I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know what you're going to say to me. Like, I'm so embarrassed. She said, I just need you to know that I watched you, which I'm like, oh, that's weird, but okay. I watched you eat every single dish that was put in front of you, and your face lit up as if it was Christmas morning for every single dish. I cannot believe how much you enjoyed that meal. And I said, I absolutely enjoyed every single thing of this meal. It was amazing. It was incredible. We got to talking, and I said, oh, I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and the mom's like, oh my gosh, my daughter at here just moved to DC. She's going to school there. And I was like, oh, great. I'm actually a priest in the Episcopal Church at St. Paul's in Old Town Alexandria. You should come on by sometime and, experience the church. And the mom goes, it's so funny. We were just talking to her about how she doesn't believe in God anymore. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, well, you should come on by anyway. And we have a 20s and 30s group that, we go out and we have drinks together, and you don't have to believe in God to come and join us. So anyway, I was like, okay, how do you get out of that situation? The best meal I've had in my entire life. And a woman, a third-party person can prove it to you that I had the best meal of my life. And so from Modena, I went to Milan, where again I stayed to the routine, went to Mass, explored the city, had a good coffee, and that was the last city that I was in for when I was in Italy. It was overall, don't do it, oh my God, I'm almost done. It was 24 days, which I was definitely ready to, oh God, I don't know what that is. I don't, anybody watching the supermodels on the, They're from Italy, yes. They're also from Italy, so, come on, there we go. So I ended my trip in Milan. It was 24 days, and I was definitely ready to be home. Filled with incredible stories, but also ready to sleep in my own bed. There wasn't one more ounce of pasta that you could fit in my body. So I was ready to not eat pasta by the end of all of this time. As I was thinking and reflecting on that time, just the incredible gift that I was able to do this, the privilege that I was able to do this, the fact that St. Paul's was able to support me in doing this, that's truly a grace that I never expected, and it's such a gift to restore mind, body, and soul through espresso, through Mass, through food, through visiting the Black Madonna. I couldn't be more grateful, and it's truly thanks to St. Paul's, Oren, Jenny, everybody who works in the office that I was able to do that. So with great thanks, I conclude my presentation. And we've got time, a little time, maybe for questions. I don't know. Okay, hold on. This is the technology side of my job. Whew.